9.2%. And joining us now is economic expert Kereakos Zuras. He is a best-selling author and also a former advisor to President George W. Bush.
And joining us now with more on this story in America's business climate right now is Kereakos Zuras. He's a former advisor to George W. Bush and author of How to Succeed When Everyone is Failing.
Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, Fox News contributor Ellen Radner, former advisor to President George W. Bush, Kereakos Zuras, and co-founder of the Tea Party 365, David Webb. Nice to see all of you bright and early this morning.
And joining us now for more on this is business expert Kereakos Zuras. He is the author of How to Succeed When Everyone Else is Failing. He's also a former advisor to President George W. Bush.
Tonight on Newswatch, unemployment drops. What does it tell us about the... Well, joining us now to talk more about the unemployment rate is Kereakos Zuras. He is a former advisor to President George W. Bush and the author of How to Succeed When Everyone is Failing.
Ask our political panel. Kereakos Zuras is a former advisor to President George W. Bush. Charles Butler is a conservative talk show radio host, and Julie Roginski is a Fox News contributor. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Kereakos, let me start with you.
Well, now with me here in the studio is Jamu Green, well known to you all, Fox News contributor, Democratic strategist. And in D.C., joining us is a man whose name I will now butcher, I'm sure, Kereakos Zuras, former advisor to President George W. Bush.
Here to break it down for us on the right, Kereakos Zuras, former financial advisor to the George W. Bush administration.
We bring in the panel to talk about the super committee because that is on the minds of a lot of people because this is a make or break next 2 days. To my right is Kereakos Zuras. Just in case anybody, might question, it is Greek. Yes.
Absolutely.
A former advisor to George W. Bush and the business expert.
To get his jobs. Joining us now is former advisor to George W. Bush, Kereakos Zuras.
Our friend Eric Averbaum, who's the associate publisher for Social Media Mag. It's great to have you again here.
It's great to be here.
How's Kereakos Zuras, who is a business expert and former advisor to George W. Bush. Welcome. Great to have you, sir.
Good morning, Uma. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me start with you.
Kereakos Zuras is a former advisor to George W. Bush, a business expert, and he joins us in Washington, D.C.
So who were the winners and losers last night? Let's ask our political panel. Former Hillary Clinton advisor and Fox News contributor Jamu Green, former advisor to George W. Bush, Kereakos Zuras, and editorial writer for the New York Post, Robert George. Welcome.
Here to discuss the constant bickering about jobs on and off the Hill, or on the right, Kereakos Zuras. He's a former economic advisor to President George W. Bush.
Political panel now to discuss this. Kereakos Zuras, former advisor to President George W. Bush.
Thank you so much, Juliet. We bring in our political panel now to discuss the hot political topics of the day. Who are they? We have Kereakos Zuras, former advisor to George W. Bush.
And joining us now to talk more about this is Kereakos Zuras. He is a former advisor to President George W. Bush and the author of How to Succeed When Everyone is Failing.
Okay, you're here, and in Washington, D.C., Kereakos Zuras is a former advisor to former President George W. Bush and a business expert. Kereakos, you doing okay? How are you doing the hurricane?
Great. How are you?
I am well. We have an action-packed hour. Lots to talk about this hour. You're here on set with me in D.C. Kereakos Zuras is here. Hello. How are you this morning?
Hi. How are you? I'm very well, thank you.
Good. And I am well.
Now for a fair and balanced debate, Fox News contributor Ellen Radner, former advisor to President George W. Bush, Kereakos Zuras, and co-founder of the Tea Party 365, David Webb. Nice to see all of you bright and early this morning.
Thank you.
What countries do you think, Kereakos, other than we were talking about Italy, will have an impact on our future? Are we affected by Greece?
And we now have Kereakos Zuras, who is a former advisor to George W. Bush and also a business expert. I'm going to have you jump right in.